I mean, ever been passed over for a promotion at work and you were thinking that you're going to get it and you didn't get it and you wondered why? Why? I thought I was going to be promoted. Well, you're not alone. And it's exactly why promotions spark some of the toughest debates in any team. It's a very controversial issue. Do you reward a person who delivers brilliantly and who does so much work but struggles with people? They're amazing, but they struggle with people and team dynamics and so on. Or do you reward someone else who is reliable and gets along with everyone, even if their work is just not that solid? Today we thought let's unpack this thing and see what really goes on into deciding the performance and behavior when making these decisions that bosses have to keep up with. And joining us to guide us through this is Lauren Clark, the head of people at the Mint Group, giving us a peek behind the curtain of promotions. Lauren, thanks for joining us. Good morning. I hope you're good.
Hi, Thabo. I am. Thank you very much for having me.
I'm excited that we're having this discussion, Lauren, because almost all of us, and I'm sure all the listeners, are concerned about this, because if it hasn't happened to you, it has happened to someone that you know, either your mom, if you are young, or yourself, your brother, or a colleague, where they were looking for to be promoted and it did not go that well. But let's start at the beginning. How do companies generally approach promotions, Lauren? Is there a standard process, or does it maybe depend on the discretion of managers?
So, Thabo, in an ideal world, I would say that companies would have a very clear and fair process in place that is very clear to everybody of how they could advance their career. Okay, that would be an ideal world. And as you and I both know, that's not the case for many organizations. And I think, promotions are such a sensitive topic, because we're talking about somebody's life. Your career progress is a reflection of the work you've done and, where you're progressing in life. And if organizations don't have a clear and visible plan in place that guides vertical progress as well as the concentric progress of acquiring the non-technical skills to move your career to the next level, then promotions are always going to be inherently unfair.
And I'm hearing from what you're saying, please feel free to correct me at any time, Lauren, because I know nothing about this. I work for myself, so I know very little about promotions and things like that. I'm hearing you to be saying that performance doesn't really matter that much, or performance is not the sole criteria that is looked at prior to promotion being given.
Correct. So it definitely matters, but performance is one factor. And I think this is where organizations get promotions or any kind of staff movement wrong, is when you pin a staff movement decision on one source of data, then it's going to be flawed, because it's not taking into account the other factors that will be impacted. So if an organization is promoting for the sake of meeting legislative targets, for example, okay, you're going to have hollow promotions, you're going to have people placed into positions they're not ready for, they're going to fail, there's going to be conflict in the workplace, etc. If you are creating promotion opportunities to make somebody happy, so you've got a star performer and you've heard rumblings that they are looking for another job. They're on the market, okay? And you have a reaction to, let's promote him and give them more money because then he'll stay, okay? You're creating an environment there. It's going to definitely become toxic, but you're also creating an environment where possibly it wasn't actually the outcome this person needed. Maybe they needed a different project, a different challenge, a different career direction. Okay. So using promotion as a plaster to fix stuff is a very big mistake, but organizations do that quite a lot. And another factor to consider with promotion is who is giving the data to make this decision. Because if you've just got one manager who's giving feedback on a person, if they have very, very positive feedback, is that fact? Is that evidence-based, or is that opinion? Are they friends? Do they hang out on the weekend and a promise was made over the braai? And then, okay, or maybe they actually don't get on very well, and this person's promotion opportunities are being deflected because the manager is not speaking up for them. Okay, so if you're using one source of data for promotion, it can become very, very dangerous, and it will also reduce the significance of the purpose of promotion.
Yeah. Does the monster called workplace politics play a role in this, where someone may not necessarily be as efficient, but they are able to maneuver themselves very well within management circles, and their names are mentioned, and laughter bests out whenever they speak about this person, and management just thinks, it would be great to have this person in our ranks because they are just a lovely person. But so it could be also that someone is perhaps throwing their own colleagues under the bus. To what extent do those nasty political workplace matter play themselves to an extent where people who are worthy of a promotion do not get it, and those that are not end up being promoted?
100%. Workplace politics would definitely influence this, and I think many of us have experienced this over the course of our career, and it is devastating and it's heartbreaking because it creates an unsafe environment. And I often talk about safety on this show with Clement before, as around psychological safety in the workplace is core to the culture that creates and employee engagement and satisfaction. So if there is politics in the workplace that creates an unsafe environment, and people know that Bob is Bob is in there with managers and he's cool and he plays paddle on the weekend with them, then why would they even try? Why would I try and do my best if I know that I'm never going to achieve anything? I'm not going to go anywhere in this company. So you'll end up having a very apathetic workforce as well, because what's the point? And I think a lot of companies then target the employees that become disengaged instead of fixing the problem, which is the workplace politics, which is the subjective employee references, instead of having an objective performance management system in place.
And the apathy that you're speaking about, to what extent can it infiltrate throughout the company when you are studying, taking courses, self-development engagements in order for you to contribute better as an employee of the company, but you are always overlooked, maybe because you keep to yourself on weekends. As you've said, you don't care much for pedal, you find it very boring, and you'd rather be with your husband, your wife, or your friends out of work, and you come in and you do your thing and you just leave. So in a short way, I'm trying to ask you, Lauren, how important is it also to consider playing politics for your own advantage, even outside your personality? If really this is the game that you want to be in, you've decided to play rugby, you must tackle some people.
Yes, Thabo, that's actually a really great analogy and a great question, because the truth of the matter is you need to build a portfolio of evidence. Anybody, no matter how positive your work environment is, you should also be coming to your performance management meetings and your biannual KPIs with a portfolio of evidence to support the work that you've done, the growth that you've achieved, the certifications, the studies, the learnings you've done, etc. So I think a lot of people kind of let performance management and performance measurement happen to them. They show up at their KPIs, and this is, their manager telling me, you're getting this rating because of this. Okay. People need to own their jobs. They need to own their careers. You should be arriving in your KPI meeting with your portfolio of evidence to demonstrate what you've achieved. Because when we bring it down to evidence, when we bring it down to facts, if there really is an unfair process of promotion, of any kind of recognition in that, then you can do something about it. You can go to the next level of management with your portfolio of evidence and ask for feedback. Why was I not promoted when I have this evidence to support my capability and my career position? But another person who doesn't have that evidence was promoted. Because then it also puts the company on the spot to be transparent about how they make these decisions. Okay. I mean, in an ideal world, you'd get justice, you'd get a fair hearing and that type of thing. I'm sure that's not always the case. But I think the message here with any kind of promotion or any kind of career movement is you need to be driving it and you need to have the evidence to support yourself.
Sure. The time is 18 after 11. My guest, Lauren Clark. Lauren is head of people at Mint Group. And today we are looking at promotions in the workplace. The feature is called World of Work. Have you ever been overlooked for a promotion? Give us a call. How did that make you feel? Did you remedy the situation? Do you play office politics at work? Do you see some people being promoted and not you? Or you know these office politics so well and you play them so excellently to an extent that you are the one who always gets ahead. Maybe you've got some tips or two for people who are never promoted and you'd want to say to them, listen, consider doing this, that, or the other. Don't just put in so many hours at work. That does not necessarily result into a promotion. You also need to have some soft power skills in order for you to maneuver and to move up the ladder, the corporate ladder. I'd love to hear from you. Give us a shout, especially if you feel that you've been hard done by and you deserve the promotion and it didn't happen. 011-883-0702, 011-883-0702. Or if you dread that, you could easily send a voice note. Give us just your perspective, short, sweet and sharp, on 072-702-1702. Lauren, I just want to press a little bit on this issue. Do you have some tips, perhaps on people who are not necessarily as assertive, people who are recluse of society, who do not necessarily go out there to put themselves out, who don't carry a billboard around them when they're walking to the water cooler in the office, who don't advertise the small wins that they do, but are hardworking and deserving? How do you change that? Even if it's your personality, what can you do to position yourself a little bit strategically in the limelight and in the eyes of decision makers in order to be considered for a promotion? Any tips?
So, I mean, it's a really good point because not everybody does have a voice and the personality to kind of speak up. And I think one of the most obvious ways that somebody stands out is when whatever they've been doing stops. So just for example, they go on leave and then people are like, this is not being done. Where's this person that does this? And you notice they're important. So I think it's always important to be doing something in your role that becomes really important to the greater scheme of the function. Because if you're just doing something that anybody could do, or, I always reference our office cleaner. When she is not there, the very first thing we can see is the dishes piling up in the kitchen. And immediately everybody is like, oh, is Musa off today? Where's Musa? Okay. Because she provides a service or she's doing a task that is really important, but we don't notice it when it's there, when it's happening, because it's just, it's part of what I do. Until she's no longer there or she's not there, okay? And I think that's how people should be viewing portions of their job. What are you doing that makes you important to a bigger picture? So that without you or without the thing that you do, somebody takes notice and goes, hey, wait, this is not being done. Where's this person? Because then more people acknowledge you. People are talking about the role that you play. And that's what you want. You want to raise your profile so that somebody is talking about you in a positive and constructive way. Because remember, the people that are making decisions about promotions and salary increases, job titles, etc., they don't work with you on a day-to-day basis.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
They are receiving second or third or fourth hand feedback. So you need to make sure that somebody is speaking up on your behalf. Somebody is bringing this evidence forward on your behalf. And the way to do that is to spotlight it. So do people know what it is you bring to your role? And what happens when you don't bring it? What happens when you're on leave? What happens when you're off sick? Who speaks up? Who says, oh, flip, this is not being done. Oh, I really miss it when Sally's not here because she gets this done so well. And that's what you want, is you need to amplify your capability.
Being affable versus being competent. Of course, there are people who may have those two traits, but at times one has one and is without the other. And can that also be a criteria where management says, yeah, we like this Thabo guy, but he's very stubborn and he is cantankerous, he is argumentative. We'll be just in management meetings, we'll just be having arguments nonstop. So let's go with Abel. Abel is easygoing. He perhaps doesn't have the skill that the other guy has, but it's someone that we can work with and we can groom him to become this. Do those conversations exist?
Absolutely, Thabo. And I can personally say, having worked in HR for 25 plus years, that for me, the standout characteristic is, and the benchmark that we always use is, be the colleague you want to work with. Okay.
Yes.
And that benchmark means be somebody that is easy to work with, that makes the job better. And so to answer your question, somebody who is really technically good but has a bad attitude, or they're rude, or they are unreliable, is not a colleague that I want. And that's my honest opinion.
Yeah.
But somebody who is really great to work with, they're reliable, they're dependable. They might not be the best technical person, but they're good, and there's runway to increase their skills, to develop their skills further.
Yes.
But they add value to the team with the ease with which they can be, that we work with them, their reliability, their communication skills. That is far, far, far more important. And it's referencing back to the things we chatted about earlier in this conversation. You want to be constantly building and adding value to your environment and the company's culture. And that is what adds value, is somebody who is good to work with.
Certainly. Your voice notes on 072 702 1702.
Hey, 702 family. What a fun topic that you have covered here, Tabas. You know, there's something that I've realized in my very short 18-year career is that there are certain levels of a business where you can get promoted because they need the technical ability to be present at that level. And then there are other levels that are typically above that level, where politics is 100% the name of the game. So one would need to identify, firstly, the proportion that they are looking for. Is it technically inclined, or do they need to have a little bit of personality for it? And then the alternative being, is it 100% personality? And then you just need to have just enough technical ability to get you by. So it's critical that one identifies those requirements before feeling hard done by being overlooked for a promotion. This is my daughter here, Germiston.
Let's go to another one. I'd like you, Lauren, to respond to those, but because we're getting closer to the end of the session, maybe we'll chat about it a little bit later on 072 702 1702. Would love to hear from you. Again, this comes up, Lauren. So I think it might be a little bit discouraging that your skills, your competence are just not enough, but also We cannot necessarily say that it happens across board. I'm sure somewhere out there are bosses who are concerned about competency over just liking someone. There are bosses who are really keen on getting the work done over and above work politics.
There as well. There is, up to a certain level in your job, the technical component has definitely got more weight. And I was recently just observing a truck driver reverse into a delivery dock and recognizing the skill that it takes to do that. And if I put that into this conversation, you want somebody who's really skilled at driving to be driving your massive delivery truck safely and securely through the city. So you're not going to place priority on whether they're a nice person. You're not going to be like, are they friendly? The priority there is, can they drive this rig really well and safely and do this job? So absolutely there would be like a weighting system involved in terms of what is a priority. But I think it boils down to the fact of what is adding value to your overall culture. And is this person promoting this person with the combination of technical and non-technical skills will add value to this organization and the culture in this promoted position?
Very interesting. I mean, Lauren, this is also fascinating. I mean, it's the world of adults, and you're getting to understand that it's just not what's on paper that matters. You have to have a number of skills. And I wanted to squeeze in this last question. People who are continuously obsessed with their rights, that it's 4 o'clock, I'm going home. Goodbye. I can't take calls after 9 o'clock. I'm with my family. I'm starting work at 7, and before that, you can't send me a text. Are they doing themselves a disfavor to be considered for a promotion?
But now you're opening up another Pandora's box for our next discussion. Because it depends, again. If you've got a company culture that respects personal time and actually supports work-life balance, then no, having those boundaries in place shouldn't impact your job progress, your career progress negatively at all. But as you and I both know, and as we've referenced in this call, not all organizations have that view. And somebody who is always available and always responsive, absolutely, that's somebody with, the person making the decision about promotion will be like, well, Bob is always here. It'll be such an easy one. Let's promote him because then he'll get stuff done. And that's absolutely what's visible, So a lot of this boils down to the kind of organization that we're talking about and the policies and procedures they have in place and the culture that they have around performance.
A million thanks, Lauren Clark, Head of People at Mint Group. And this was our World of Work feature. We're looking at promotions at the workplace.